Um, all right, guys. The idea of this really is tell you a bit about myself. My background is filmmaker, a lot of short films. I do a lot of sort of showreel material for actors, writing scenes from scratch. Um, and I think obviously with COVID, there's a lot of people are doing self-tape material, which is great. I think it's great that people are doing that kind of material, but I'm wondering if during this sort of period of time there is an opportunity to, when filming things just for yourselves from home, trying to have material that's useful for a reel, I feel like there are certain methods and things you can do to make the material a little bit more engaging than a self-tape. And that's what we're here to talk about. Did you guys get a chance to watch the clips that I sent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So the Skype call one, the sort of comedy sketch one, I'm not an actor, by the way, although I was in that sketch. I was shooting some scenes for that actress. Her name's Leonie Zuma. And we just had a sort of 10-minute downtime and I had an idea. And we just filmed that in one take, improvised. And by no means am I suggesting it's like the best thing ever, but it's an example of something that you can do.
Yeah. No, it's not just the not listening thing, John. It's everything. It's everything with the new house. I can't cope with this anymore. It's not working for me anymore.
Apparently it's not working. Can you hear us saying it's not working?
No, John, I don't mean the bloody Skype. I mean this. I mean us.
What's not working? Why are you doing this on the...
See, I just can't believe... he doesn't even understand what I'm talking about. He never really listens.
She's going a bit...
Do you know me at all, John?
Well, I think so. I've been with you for 10 years or whatever.
Yeah, maybe 10 years is enough. I mean, maybe there's just... Sometimes you have to draw the line. I don't know.
She's just joking. We're just having a laugh. It's just fine.
No, do you see me laughing?
Why would you do this on the Skype? She's
now is as good as a time as ever.
I'm not necessarily even saying it's showreel material, but it's a comedy sketch. I think it's got a few laughs in it. Admittedly, it was 9 years ago now. And the reason I showed you those two clips, and this is the main thing I feel like I have to sort of say today is. Reading from my notes, I said the key bit of advice is to make scenes that suit your budget. By that, I mean, rather than just film, I think what a lot of people are doing, they're taking a scene from let's say the play/film Closer, and they're finding a monologue piece from it, and they're standing there with a white background, just performing like they're on a stage, and it doesn't feel real. So I think, I've seen whenever I go on Twitter, there's all these people here's my self-tape, come and watch my scene, come watch my, doing a bit of material they like. But by the nature of it, self-tapes, maybe you guys don't agree, but I feel like by their nature, self-tapes are not the most engaging thing to watch. Would you, and I see most of you guys are mute, you can give me some nodding. Do you agree that they're not that fun to watch, or? Well, there's some mixed headlines there. Okay. I feel like people are slightly more saying they're not that engaging to watch. And the other clip that I sent you was, so I did this thing a few months ago, and I can send you guys a link to the blog post. I had this idea of doing a project where I could direct people around the world or wherever they were. I was in America at the time, actually, for a few weeks, and I worked with a lot of actors back in England. And I wrote these monologue pieces, like the script that I sent you all. And the idea was that they could film it, send me takes. I would then direct them and say, maybe try this, maybe try that. And then they could have a bit of showreel material out of nothing that didn't cost anything to do. And whilst those actors did that with me, I don't think you need someone like me. So for example, the piece that weirdly we filmed that before all the lockdown and everything. And obviously the scene was about someone in lockdown panicking that everyone's dead, there's nowhere to get food. And it's weird how it mirrors real life more than I'd anticipated when we did it.
The streets are still empty.
The radio's gone dead. I have no idea why I'm recording this video.
But what is it I wanted to say? So I feel like there are certain stylistic things that you can do to elevate what you do from the level of self-tape to at least temporary showreel material. By no means am I saying if you do something on your phone that it's necessarily going to be something that you use for the next 3 years and show to every casting director. But most of you guys had sort of said or implied that you don't have much material. So I think that the one thing I think that is important is that you can, so the Skype thing was meant to look bad. It was meant to, in fact, I shot it on a good camera and then made it look like a Skype call. Meanwhile, the thing that the actress did with the isolation type thing, she filmed on her phone. It was meant to be filmed on her phone. So I think an idea is, if you're sitting at home thinking, all I've got is my phone, like use it as an asset, use it as you can write yourself or improvise a bit of material, which is, what if the world's about to end and I want to tell my dad I forgive him for that thing he did? Or what if I never told someone I was in love with them and now's my one chance? Or, there's so many different ideas you could do. For example, just as a raise of hand, has anyone been watching Afterlife, the Ricky Gervais show? Okay, less people than I expected. 3.5. Someone's not sure. There's Kerry Godliman's character. She's the wife who passed away. We see her in flashbacks. Most of what she did, most of her scenes are her obviously about to pass away. She's got the headband on because she'd been sick, and she's got a hospital in the background. Obviously, you guys, I would assume, don't have access to a hospital. But that is a really good example of really strong acting, really good acting done in a legitimate location. So if I was going to do a scene right here, right now, if I'm doing a monologue here talking about being in the hospital, it's not realistic. But if I've got a bookcase or I've got some plant, my girlfriend's plants over here, I can do a scene about someone who's obsessed with plants and trying to sell them during a lockdown, but no one will buy them because we're locked down. I don't know. I think that I feel like I might be rambling a bit, so soon you guys will tell me to be more a message if it's not making sense. But the idea is to do scenes that match what you have available. So if all you've got is your phone, do scenes that are set on a phone. Or, this Zoom thing, I think I've not been able to come up with an idea yet, but if you record a Zoom conversation, it practically does the editing for you. Whoever's talking is in shot. And if you wrote yourself a funny comedy sketch about two people having a Skype conversation or a Zoom conversation, I think it can be valuable material, at least for the next few months, because I get the sense that casting directors they're realizing the situation that everyone's in. So I feel like it's evening the playing field a little bit, in that there's an opportunity to show material that has not been shot for lots of money or with great cameras. The final main point I want to make, and then maybe we can have a bit of a chat, is I still think I mentioned the idea of improvising stuff, which is great if you've got that skill, but I think it's best to write yourself material and learn your lines. And I would make sure you sort of adhere to the rules of drama, as in have a conflict, maybe have a sort of exchange of power in the scene. I'll explain what I mean by that. And also a matter of urgency. So a conflict would be, the world's about to end, or I'm never going to get to speak to so-and-so again, or I need to Skype the girl I like before she chooses the other guy, whatever it might be. So you have a conflict. And where I've written exchange of power, I guess what I mean about that is, if you start the scene weak, maybe you end it strong. Maybe there's a moment when you say, I'm never going to let this bad thing happen again. Or maybe you start as a confident character, and then you get weaker. A matter of urgency, purely because I think that, like most film scenes, it's more interesting when something's got to happen right now, or if you don't do this thing, something bad will happen. Yeah, those are sort of the notes of ideas that I have. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions, or we can open it up a little bit? I realize there's quite a few of us, but maybe if like a finger raise, which I see, and I'll point out some people. So the guy I'm seeing in the white shirt up in the corner there, yeah,
Hi.
Hi Ben, how you doing?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
I can hear you.
Yeah, that is really helpful. Thank you. I'm
Cool.
interested in, like, I'm in the very early stages of making some content for myself.
Nice.
I'm also interested if you have any, knowing that most of us will be filming. I'm going to be filming on my phone.
Yeah.
And the setup that I have is okay.
Yeah.
And I'm learning a bit as I go about editing, but like basics that are always good to remember, to keep in mind in terms of like the practicalities of lighting, sound, things to avoid.
Yeah. Do you know what? Like, so that's interesting. Where you mentioned lighting, the great thing about setting a film or setting a scene, if it's meant to be filmed on your phone, as in I'm a character in this situation using my phone, lighting is not the key thing. Do you know what I mean? I would even suggest that lighting doesn't have to be good.
Cool.
You know, because it's not the key thing. I know obviously with a showroom, with scenes, you want it to look really good. But that scene that I did with the actor, the isolation thing when she was in the bathroom, for those who have seen it, when we did a bunch of takes, I kept saying to her, stop making it look so good. Like, stop having it so well framed. I was like, just pick up the camera, put it in the corner of your bathroom and just do it. And it will be more real because it's meant to be shot on a phone. Like the Skype thing I did was meant to be Skype. So, and that goes, you mentioned editing as well. I think that, so the two things I showed you, the Skype thing, I made it look worse quality, which if you use Zoom, you wouldn't have to. It would be done for you. But it's there's no editing in that Skype comedy sketch I sent you. And the thing with Alexandra, the isolation thing, I think there were 2 takes that I literally put them together, which you don't need to be an editor to know how to do. You'll find some program and just put one after the other. And the only thing I then did was and this is me being an experienced editor, can do this a bit more easily than you might, but I literally put a fake kind of record button in the corner and maybe something else with a date. I can't remember what I did, something like that. But keep it simple. If you write yourself something with 10 scenes and a soundtrack, it's going to get more complicated. And that's great. You know, we've got all the time in the world if you're not at work at the moment. So, you know, it's a lockdown. But keep it simple and put your character in a real situation, I think. Cool.
Great.
Cheers, Benjamin. Anyone else? Cool.
So I've kind of spent a bit of money on a random light and a mic. But yeah, I mean, I was thinking like maybe you had like a sheet with like some kind of good lights to get or some particular mics to get or anything like that. So if you've got any of that advice, that'd be great anyway, but that's probably a takeaway.
Yes.
Specifically the lights actually, because I can't quite get my lighting right.
Okay.
And I know Newer's quite good, but I haven't.
Yeah, that Newer's great because they're cheap. Like they'll do an imitation of someone else will make a light that costs £1,000 and Newer will do a light that costs 80 quid. And
there's so many different ones on Amazon. So it's a bit like, which one? And I sent one to my head of media, and he was like, no, not that one because blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. So almost it's like if there was like a little, I don't know,
yeah, absolutely. Do you know, I mean, most of those cheaper lights are actually I feel like if you're more advanced and you're a cinematographer, then maybe you want all these different special lights. But for most of the purposes, certainly for self-tapes and even for a lot of short films, essentially you use light on a simple level to balance. So for example, now I'm near a window on this side and I'm bright, this side's dark. One of those newer lights that's just a bit of even balanced light on this side, and then I'm pretty well lit. So it doesn't need to be complicated. Yeah, I definitely, a lot of the lights you found are probably great, and I'm happy to send you the ones that I use, and some of them are really cheap because they do the trick. What was your creative question?
My creative question is that it's a great idea to kind of almost like, you know, I was thinking of like some self-written stuff, but it's kind of new to me. So, and then I was very much, you know, so we've been told to go on to BBC, I don't know, whatever, the script, the writing thing, and take the scripts and have a look. So I had to do a location scene. So I've done one of those. But I was wondering about other resources, and I was actually going to say, do you have a little treasure trove of your own that, you know, that you've got some old material and that you're like, oh, do you know what, go and have a play with that kind of thing?
Do you know what? I do have some scenes that I'm happy for you to use there's 3 scripts, one of the ones you saw, that I did for this sort of monologue at home thing. And I've got a few bits and pieces that I'll email to you guys afterwards.
That'd be one. Thank you.
That you guys will be welcome to use, but they might just inspire you to do your own version. I think like the thing with taking them from BBC and all of that is that, and maybe this is just my own personal taste, but I feel like when you take, like I was saying earlier on, when you take material from somewhere, it's rarely, you know, when you're watching a film, what I would like is you guys to make scenes that look like they're from a film. And the way to do that is that, you know, you can be watching a movie and then they cut to a moment when the lead character is talking to his phone. I want you guys to like make those moments. Do you know what I mean? And I think they can be good scenes. So when you find material, you know, from an episode of Killing Eve or something, it ends up feeling like an audition piece, or feels like, here's me doing that famous clip and putting it on my website, putting it on my Twitter. So I feel like it can work against you, or is not as interesting as if you just wrote yourself, like you're saying, you write yourself, like even just a simple, you could write a comedy sketch about a Zoom chat workshop that goes wrong, and there's a bully and there's someone who's sarcastic. You know what I mean? Like you could just do something. We could do this. Maybe we should do this tomorrow. Let's make a film. I'll give you some light. You know, you could literally make a film by doing what we're doing now. So I think like be creative, write stuff is a good idea. You know, but I've certainly got some little scripts that I will send over. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, no worries. The lady with the fire something on her hoodie there, it says fire. Yeah.
Hey. So 2 questions. One about filming like a self-tape for auditions, and another one for filming a scene. With the self-tape, I feel like the characters that I choose are quite animated and dynamic, but yet we always have to stick to the self-tape rules of, okay, you have to be still, you can't really use too much gesture, you have to fit in the face. So can I be a little bit more daring and like put some of that dynamism And then for the scenes, if you do write yourself, would you say that less is more in terms of dialogue? And if you're not fortunate enough to have like you know, like housemates that are actors, you basically have to do like solo scenes by yourself.
Yeah.
Would you say that they all have to be done to camera, or can they be like the camera is just in the space and it's just capturing like what you're doing here and there?
I'm going to answer some of your last bits first. Of course you can. I mean, look, these phones that most of us have now, the picture quality of them is better than when I started making films and had bought my first supposedly great camera. Like an iPhone is better picture quality. So therefore you can make a more traditional scene, as in put the camera up and film yourself in a scene rather than using it as your phone. That being said, you run into the tricky territory of the fact that you don't have a camera person, the fact that it would just probably look lower budget. It'll kind of look, it can be done, but it might feel not as real, or feel like someone trying to do a scene. Whereas I think if you can find a use for the phone, as in this character would film on a phone, it might feel slightly more realistic. And And I had another point on that and I've lost it. What was I going to say? Another idea is, you know, if you guys have a partner or a parent, whoever you're with at the moment, they might not be in the industry. You might be shy about acting with them, but you could do a documentary style piece where all they've got to do is film it. So, you know, thinking of things like The Office, it could be, you know, so if you had an idea, let's say you wanted to do a film about somebody who's breaking the lockdown rules and has gone to a house that isn't theirs. I don't know, I'm just thinking of bad ideas. You could make a documentary of it and have your mum holding the camera, and then you can act in the scene. Or if any of you are lucky to live with actors, you know, find the one who's not an actor and they can just hold the camera and do it documentary style. So I've done short films in the past that are documentary style because I couldn't afford the budget to, you know, if I'm filming like a real film, everything needs to be perfect. But if you want the lighting to be bad, the sound to be dodgy, as soon as you say documentary, you have the license to have everything not be perfect. And then back to what you was asking about self-tapes. I don't know your acting personally, but I think that there's a few stages I think that happen with self-tapes is when actors are sometimes less experienced, they have a tendency to overact. So I think like acting teachers and people like me try and be like, be more natural, be more yourself, la-di-da. And that helps actors get better. But then at some point, an actor is so natural that it almost becomes bland and not distinct. And then you kind of want to say like, well, just put a bit more of yourself in there. Like, don't be afraid to get angry. For that, I would say with self-tapes, like find someone you trust, film 10 versions and show it to them and do one where you try. I think it's important to have someone that you trust who you can act really badly in front of and they won't make you feel like crap if it's bad. Do you know what I mean? Like it's good to have those people and then experiment with putting in those bits that are more, I don't know what the word is, emotional or more bigger, you know? But I totally get that what you're asking because it's such a tricky thing, isn't it? Between wanting to be subtle and real and not wanting to just underdo everything. Does that answer your questions?
Yes, it does. And one other thing about the less is more in terms of the amount of dialogue that you use, if you are going to do it either with two people or just yourself, is less more or like how, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. It really depends on your style of what you're doing. Definitely don't do dialogue for the sake of it. So, you know, if I did it. One of the monologue pieces that I'm going to send you the script for later. The first line of the script, the character says, "I just got my test results back," and then there's a long pause.
I got my results. Yeah.
And it's a good moment because it says so much. It says, I've just got the results back. And as an audience, you're thinking, are they sick? Are they going to be okay? What's going on? And it enables the actor to sit in the moment and be interesting without having to have a lot of dialogue. So it's like anything. It's like any film. It's if you can do something with less words, if you can show it visually, that's great. But it depends on, I think, what the material is. Okay. Cool. Anyone else? Okay, we've got the lady there on the sofa thing with a radio. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Emma. That's Emma. Hi, Emma.
Hi. Do you suggest just creating one of these or creating several scenes and together as more of a show reel with variation?
Good question. Who knows? I mean, start with one as a scene, see if it's any good, see if you get good feedback. The hard thing is if you do it as a show reel in lockdown, then before you know it, you're like, here's my comedy scene on the sofa. Here's my really serious scene in my bedroom. Here's me in the kitchen having the breakup. Like it could be a bit, it's like, yeah, she's just on her own in lockdown and she looks, you know, it could end up like that. Another option, forgetting showreels for a minute, and I've seen some people doing this, you might come up with a funny comedy character and it could be a series, you know, if you were to do comedy, for example. But yeah, I think, who knows? I think if you do too many of these things, it might look like a bit of a, it could go tacky as well. It's a thin line. But I think at least initially to rein in the ambition a little bit and like do one good scene. That will, especially, I don't know, like how much material do you feel like you have for your reel at the moment?
A lot.
Not a lot. Okay. So I think if you guys do a good version of this, it will be better than some bad student film that you did 3 years ago. I think that you guys are all capable of that. So yeah, focus on one and like, look, if it's amazing, then do 10 of them, you know, but cool. All right. Thanks, Emma. Cool. Anyone else? Any thoughts? Anything? Okay, we've got who's that over there? Hannah, and then
yeah. I was just saying, would you say like it's better just to have like one whole length like scene without cutting like different shots, or like I suppose it probably depends like on the scene, but like I feel kind of confident with like editing of different shots and stuff, but I don't want it to like overdo it, like, do you know what I mean?
No, I don't know what you mean. I think for simplicity's sake, the less cuts, as a general rule, the less the better. But you know, sometimes if you see like a YouTuber who uses like 100 cuts, it works really well. So if you did a film about a woman who lives on her own who's trying to resist getting a takeaway for 2 weeks, and you see the passing of time and her getting more stressed, you could keep putting cuts in. So if you've got the skills and the software to do it, by all means, just follow your own creativity. But you might find with a casting director, if they see you do something really good with no cuts, it shows a certain level of just holding your own on screen that could be good. But, you know, whatever works. Cool. All right. Cool. Thanks, Han. Ross, did you want to ask something?
So this was kind of a directorial kind of thing I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
So is it complicated to, let's say if I was filming and I just had an idea for a piece there while you were talking, but it would be in a small space and it's slightly echoey. Right. So is it simple to get rid of that kind of echo in an editing sense, or?
No, I mean, I feel like there are things you can do, but you end up losing you lose quality. Have you ever seen like a bad sounding short film where they'll film, let's say outdoors, have a sound issue, and you fix it and you play around with it, but like if you've got like echo, but my question would be, can you not, what room would you be filming in, if you don't mind me asking? Like, what is the space?
So it's one room in the house that's just really small, right. And it offers that really, really isolated feeling when you're in it. Yeah. So I was going to kind of exploit that and give it a go, trying a scene in there. Yeah. But maybe it's the tiles on the floor or something that just give it a little bit of an echo when you're in there.
Yeah. I think though, like if you set the scene, like if you've got a shot where you see it's a tiny room, and if the storyline is about, or if we're showing that you are in a small space, A, the audience might just get it, or B, this might be too tacky, but even if you like your character made a noise to show it's echoey, or like used it in the storyline, then you save yourself the technical hassle of trying to hide it. So I feel like most of what I'm talking about and the ideas that I've had that you can do as a self-tape are minimizing the technical excuses we all have that stop us making films. As in, if only I had a room with good sound, if only I had other actors around. Like, if you film your thing about a guy in a small space and, you know, I feel like you can make it, unless it's so bad we can't hear you, but, you know, like you can make it part of the storyline.
Yeah, it's a minimal thing, but
Yeah.
I've always found if I'm in there, it is something that my ear picks up. So therefore, the mic will probably.
Yeah, like if you were doing a self tape and you're trying to get on a Netflix show and you're using that room for your self tapes, it's probably a bad idea. But if you're doing a short scene with a character who's in a room that happens to be echoey, I think it's probably fine. Cool.
Thanks.
All right, no worries. Is there anyone who's maybe not, or anyone that has, but has anyone else got any thoughts or ideas? Or while we're here, not just for me, I don't know if there's any way this can be useful to anyone. Benjamin.
Yeah, I had a question just on like and we've covered some of it, but like the second clip that's shot on the iPhone in the lockdown.
Yes.
I thought was really effective.
Cool.
And I was wondering what sort of the thought process of if you are holding it and filming yourself.
Yeah.
Like the balance between how busy you might get moving around and putting it down.
Yeah.
Like how much, I guess, you just play with it, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think that you could just be carrying it into it could be a moment when you just do whatever suits the scene. If you feel like you're going to be distracted, for some people it will improve their acting because there's less time to think about yourself and you're fixated on the phone. But you could even, I mean, just another random idea that's come to my head, could be terrible. You could have like a secretly filmed camera. You know what I mean? Someone else, a character we don't see, has put a camera behind some pots and pans and they've filmed your character doing what they're doing. This is just another idea that came to my head. But yeah, I would do whatever comes naturally to you, Ben. Do you know what I mean? Like if you feel you're distracted by it, don't do it. But I think it can work either way. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks. A quick question for you guys. Does this feel useful? Do you feel like you can do something with it or? Okay, there's a few nods. Okay, Ross, is that a yes or did you want to ask something?
I just wanted to say, no, I do definitely think it's useful. Like I've tried shooting like 3 or 4 self tapes in the last week and a half, and every time I shoot it, I'm like, I'm only shooting this because I want content, but I'm not feeling like this is of like a value to send to someone to illustrate what I want them to see.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, like most of, you go on like Twitter right now and every actor's trying to be productive and they're like, here's me doing a self-tape of this scene from The Witcher or something. And like, it's great that people are being productive. We all need to find a way. But I feel like when I see a self-tape, like don't get me wrong, if I see one self-tape, I might watch just because an actor's put it online. But if there's lots and it's just everyone against a wall doing the scene they like from the thing they just watched, it doesn't really capture people. And I think that you might find it more that rather than doing a self-tape because of lockdown that no one's going to really watch, you could do a kind of almost like a more dynamic thing like we're talking about, that you don't have to put it on Twitter. It can just be a nice showreel piece if you don't have much of you playing a character.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say it definitely feels useful for something completely different to try and just, I don't know, I think it will bring a dynamic edge to what you're trying to do because there's that different energy of trying to shoot something rather than, I don't know, recreate or improvise.
Exactly. Another one I did a while, I've done a few scenes where if you have a background that could look like you're in a police station, I used to do this thing where I'd put like a crime number thing, like it'd say like Metropolitan Police, and it had like a crime number 2563, and just by having that below a person being interviewed, it looked a bit like someone in a police cell being interviewed, just experiment. Like you might do something and it looks really bad, but I thought at least this way you will, doing this kind of material, it will be more fun, I think, than just doing a self-tape. And for any of you who have any wishes to maybe direct films, you're basically making little short films and trying out ideas, so yeah. Emily.
Hi.
Hey, you all right?
I just had a quick question because we're talking about making work, and I just had this idea where I was trying to film. It's not my own work, but I want to take it out of the context of what you normally see. I don't think it's really that familiar either. So right. I don't know how you feel if you were to watch like a scene.
Yeah. So I'll give you my personal bias, my personal feeling, and this is more to do with not what you're talking about, but when I watch. So when I started doing showreel scenes from scratch for actors, when I started doing that years and years ago, actors at the time would just take a scene from The Shawshank Redemption or The West Wing or something and would recreate it. But instead of being the 50-year-old characters, there'd be a 20-year-old just out of drama school pretending to be a lawyer or whatever. And it was very jarring. And what I found over the years is that whenever I saw material, if I recognized something that comes from other material, and I think as a director or as a casting director as well, I think, not that I am one, but I feel like as soon as, if you find something familiar, then you start thinking to yourself, is that a line from that show as well? What is that? What? And then you're not trusting the experience you're having watching, because it then feels a kind of fakeness to it, perhaps. That's always been my view. However, I would say that during a lockdown, when everyone's just trying to be creative, putting copyright issues aside, as if you take material and adapt it, I mean, you'd have to decide what's worth doing. But like on a creative level, like if you have a fun idea and you put it, and it's just to use temporarily, like you might come up with something really good and valuable. So by no means would I write that off, but it depends what the material is and what you're going to do with it. But if you have a great idea that feels creative to you, you should totally do it and see where it leads. Yeah. Did that answer the question, or?
I did.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Was there something else, Emily?
No, I'm just talking.
Okay. No. Okay. Cool. All right, guys. Well, that's kind of Amina.
I was just thinking, if you are filming by yourself.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, what is the best way to film yourself, but then still have, the elements that you said to put in, to have like to have like an exchange of power, or like to adhere to the rules of drama if you're doing it by yourself. So for example, I'm just thinking of different scenarios, like either a Skype call or a phone call or a phone diary or voice note or something. But then how can I elevate it from, okay, it's just me talking in front of a screen, to actually making it a piece of drama that has those elements put in? I'm just trying to think.
Yeah, definitely. Do you mind, you don't have to, would you be open to sharing a random idea that you don't mind sharing, bearing in mind 9 other people are watching, and if I share this video, a few hundred might, so don't give me your best idea, but could you give me just a seed of an idea, and then maybe I can help you figure out how that might work?
Like literally just the top of my head, if I've got a friend who has a mental health condition, and I am worried about them having a panic attack, for example. So
that's a great idea. And so, and just about, this is if you were doing this scene on your own, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So the idea, let's see, rules of drama. I would, I think it's all about beginning it in one frame of mind and ending it on the other. So if your goal in the scene from the beginning is, I'm going to make my friend phone 111 to get help because I think they're having a breakdown. That's your goal. Mm-hmm. By the end, maybe something changes in you. You realize that maybe the behavior that you think is in your friend is actually in yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like you keep pressuring them and you're realizing, God, I'm going crazy myself. You learn something about it. This is bad ideas from me, by the way. I'm just improvising thoughts. But maybe it's that so you don't have another character talking to you, so it's hard. But I think if you're on your own, it needs to be inner realization. It needs to be self-realization. So if you maybe at the beginning of the scene, you think that your friend is just causing trouble and they need help, and you're not seeing it from their point of view. And then throughout, something happens in the scene where you realize what it is from their point of view. So you have a moment when you understand them from a perspective of, well, actually, it was really tough when this bad thing happened to them. Maybe what that friend needs from me, rather than me saying, phone them now and get help, maybe what they need is me to say, I haven't told you I love you in maybe 5 years, and I need to say it. Do you know what I mean? Like a realization, a change. That's, again, like we've just come up with an idea in 5 seconds. It could be terrible. But, and in the scripts that I send you, I think it will have some of those changes, and that might inspire. And also, if you do something comedic, I think it's just about elevating, building what the joke is. So I don't want to make a jokey version of the idea you just had, because people might get offended. But yeah, it's just try and make it go deeper. Is that in any way helpful, or did I just make?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's great help. Thank you.
Okay, cool. The simple cheap version is just have a character that changes. Just start with one point of view. A character's point of view is the lockdown should end because this is nonsense. And at the end, they realize, well, actually, we need to stay indoors for our health. Or a character who starts with the opposite of what I just said, and then they cross over, yeah. Cool. So that was the main gist of it. It's not like I had much specific I wanted to say. Just if anything, it's just a little bit of inspiration to say, just film stuff. And if you have the capability editing wise to put in the word record, or put in something that says Tuesday 3 o'clock, Tuesday 4 o'clock, Tuesday 5 o'clock, suddenly you've got a scene, you've got a film. Cool. All right. Excellent. All right, guys. I hope that was at least in some way useful. So keep in touch, guys. I want to see some finished stuff. Cool.
So much.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks, guys.